the absolute finest entertainment on the internet. Join us in fighting back against evil.
It's hotter than a blacktop in July, sweating like a sinner in a church, and I just wanna get out with my crew tonight and shoot at the lights. Got a couple 40s full of hops and fun, looking for a good time, gotta live it up. Leave behind the city, hop inside my truck. No, we don't give up. We're gonna paint the night red. Who can holler till we're dead? We're down to turn up. We're up to get down. Saying, hey, y'all.
Good evening, Thursday night, 8 p.m., the Planet Hank live show, the finest form of entertainment on the internet, the state of Vermont. We're all in here. Now, tonight's show is going to be special. I have a special edition interview from Senator Russ Ingalls that I had the opportunity to film with him the other day when I went up to Rutland for a candidate forum where we got to hear from all the candidates that are running for the VTGOP. Now, it's very important that everybody get interested in politics at a local level. And why? Because when you look at all the problems that the Brattleboro News has shown and that everybody complains about in our communities, when you look at how our representatives and our politicians are voting at a state level, it has a huge impact on the laws and the ways things are handled to do with public safety, especially around like drugs and petty crime. So when you're going, hey, look, why is everybody let out of jail? Why is it a revolving door? Why another slap on the hand? Well, here we go. This is the reason why, and here is the solution. So when politics come up at a state level, pay attention. We're not talking national politics. I don't care about who you think should be president. What we're talking about is politics at a state level. And tonight's show is going to be awesome, just like every other week, Thursday night, 8 p.m. And we had a special edition interview with Greg Thayer this past Tuesday. And so tonight's show is going to be awesome as well. So we're going to show the Russ Ingalls interview. And I'm excited about that. Taking a look at Thursday Night Football, Broncos versus Raiders. Who are you betting on? We got Phil Scott's action plan. Will it work? Overdose fatality. Death in City Hall. Mandatory minimums in Vermont. Who is to blame? And finally, let's talk about Carcan Man here in Brattleboro. Okay, so I'm super excited about this show. Every week, we always get in here and we talk a lot of politics. We have a lot of opinions. We read comments, and several people make all kinds of different comments. So if you're going to get triggered by this or you're going to get offended, just remember, here's your trigger warning. All of the opinions, the political opinions and statements are not for everybody. They are not all the opinions of me. I am not endorsing them, and I am definitely not endorsing anything said or any candidate. Don't get offended. I really don't want it. Let's read some comments. Josh Howard says, lack of accountability only leads to more poor behavior. That's true. That's true. Oh, Lauren Tilly Till writes first or whatever. Now, remember, we are streaming live on several platforms right now. And I am going to do the most important part, which is share it up. And tonight is going to be no different. We are going to have a wonderful show. Here's the poster for the Russ Ingalls interview. Now, while we all share it up, I'm going to set the mood.
We went for each other like a bullet from a gun. Faster than the sheriff's drawing, hotter than the sun. Didn't see it coming lately, I've been on the run. You know you've seen my face before, so let me tell you something. Darling, you fell in love with the famous man. See my pictures posted everywhere across the land. And if you run with me, you got to understand that you're holding on to a dangerous hand. If I want it, would you still want me? 'Cause babe, I want it. Do you still want me? I got a bag of money, honey, and it don't belong to me. Took it from a man that had it coming, so you know it wasn't free. Load this Smith and Wesson up and take our horses east. And if we run into any trouble, we'll leave them in the crimson streets. Darling, you fell in love with the famous man. See my pictures posted everywhere across the land. And if you run with me, you got to understand that you're holding on to a dangerous hand. If I want it, would you still want me? 'Cause babe, I want it. Do you still want me? Would you head for the hills if they found me? Would you turn me in for the bounty? Or vultures are circling around me? Would you die by my side? Darling, you fell in love with the famous man. See my pictures posted everywhere across the land. And if you run with me, you got to understand that you're holding on to a dangerous hand. If I want it, you still want me. Say I want it. You still want me, still want me. I want it. You still want me. Ooh. Say I want it. Do you still want me?
And so here we go. Now, I'm really proud of this interview here. We tried to do the Russ Ingalls interview. Russ is running for the chair of VTGOP on Saturday. And so he's trying to boost up his campaign. And he came on the show twice, and we had technical difficulties and had some echoing. So we killed the stream, we killed the interview, and we were able to meet up in person. And I was able to throw together a nice interview here. And I think that a bunch of you are going to be highly entertained by this and like it. So with no further ado, I'm going to add the interview to the stage. I hope you enjoy it. I'm Hank with Brattleboro News and Planet Hank, and I am interviewing Russ Ingalls, who is running for the VT GOP State Party Chair. And we just had a forum here in Rutland, and we had an opportunity to hear from all of the candidates. How are you, Russ?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me in today.
Yes, sir. Very excited to do this interview with you.
Me as well. We've tried a couple times, and I think it's been equipment failure on my end, which has been very discouraging, but I appreciate your persistence and glad to be here.
So we're just going to get it done this way, and I think that it's huge because the Paul Dame interview that I did on my podcast came out very well.
Yep.
And so I thought it was only right to put something up equally as beneficial for your campaign.
I hope I can hold up under the scrutiny.
I think you'll do great. So my first question to you, Senator, you've thrown your hat in a ring to lead the Vermont Republican Party at what you call a pivotal moment for our state. Vermonters are grappling with skyrocketing property taxes, soaring energy costs, and growing concerns about affordability. Why is now the right time for you to step up and lead the VT GOP?
Well, you know, we always wait for the pendulum to swing. The pendulum swung. The pendulum has finally gotten to the point to where it's close enough where we can grab hold of it. We had some historic gains last year, and I just didn't really see that. I didn't really feel that the Vermont GOP was doing all that it could do to capitalize on the gains that we had. And I had kind of slipped up a little bit and said that I might be interested in having a part. And to be fair, the phone started ringing in a serious way. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but everybody's like, Russ, you know, have you thought about being chair? Well, the first thing I did was check with my wife. You know, we have some businesses and all that. And my wife was very supportive of that. And she said, you know, Russ, you know, we'll take care of the businesses at home. We'll hire people as we can. She says, and I really wish you would do it. I really wish that you would go and do it. It is at a pivotal moment. We can all feel it. The public knows it. And she said, just do me one favor. And I said, yes, Deb, what's that? And she said, just win. So, yeah, so I just think it's really important time to get out there and bring some energy into it. We have a lot of donors who have sat out on the sidelines of this, you know, donors of the governor, but they haven't really felt like they wanted to give much money to the party. And those people are calling us now. They're excited. They want to get involved again. And I think that if we just breathe some energy into this and work really hard on that we're going to have a pretty good success.
Great. And so at this forum that we just had in Rutland, I thought the most entertaining part and the best part of the exchange between you and Paul Dame was when you said, you know, you said, hey, we're broke. And Paul said, we're not broke. And you said, Paul, we're broke.
Well, you know, Paul wants to talk about, you know, the money that they have. They have $18,000. Well, by the time they're done paying for the November 8th, by the time they end up paying his salary, which is $5,500 a month, and then some of his other maintenance fees that he has, they're going to be broke. I mean, when you talk to the executive committee, they talk about, hey, you know, next month, if we don't have some money coming in, we're going to be in the negative. Just in comparison, my Orleans County GOP, we have $19,000 in the bank, and we're a lot smaller. We can do better. We must do better. You just don't run an organization like Vermont GOP with just $18,000 sitting in a bank and praying that somebody calls up and does a deposit.
So if you do bring a bunch of more money into the party,
Yep.
How would you go about distributing that to county level?
Well, I think that we have to be very careful about not being drunk on money, right? We have to make sure that we still do our homework, that the candidates that we have are doing all that we need them to do. You know, you have to do it like running a successful business. I've run successful businesses. It's what I do. I buy companies that are distressed, and my wife and I go in there and we turn them around. And we do it by watching our dollars and making sure that we don't spend money foolishly. We always try to get a return of our investment. And I think that's what we really have to look at here. We have to look at these candidates and say, okay, are we going to get a return on that? We realize that not everybody's going to win, but they have to be able to bring something else to the table if they don't win. They have to bring more notice to what the GOP is all about.
Great. So let's talk about your vision for the party. You've laid out 4 key pillars: fundraising, candidate recruitment, engaging young voters, and building a team culture. Can you expand on those for us, please?
Yeah, we have what we think is probably 50,000 voters that are probably not voting in the state of Vermont right now. The blue collar people that are leaving for work at 6 o'clock and coming back at 7 o'clock at night. They're just traditional Republican voters. They don't believe in mail-in ballots. They don't believe in voting early. They believe on going on that day and voting. We've got to engage them better to make them believe that that it is so important that they do vote, and we'll work really hard on that. We also have kids that have been treated horribly in the school system. They've been called racist. They've been masked up. They've been forced to learn at home, and they were smart because they knew that if they really uprose about that they wouldn't graduate. They wanted to graduate, and also the same with the college kids. They knew that, hey, you know, if I don't toe the line here, you know, I'm not going to graduate, and I've spent a lot of money here. But those people have a lot to say right now. They really, really do. They want to be listened to. They want to be heard. We need to bring them into our party and not give them a small role. We need to give them a big role and have them sit there and tell us what we did to them so that we never do it again. You know, I'm organizing as far as in companies, culture. People just have to respect one another. We have to stop the infighting that we might have within our own party and realize that the enemy isn't us. The enemy are the progressives that are out there that are damaging Vermont deeply. And I will work really, really hard on that. And fundraising, we have just a lot of people who are waiting. They want to make sure, they've told me point blank, Russ, we are ready to contribute, but it's got to be you. It's got to be you. I know that Paul had said, hey, Rustin, why don't you bring some of that money? And Paul, I'm sorry, but they don't want the failed policies of what we've had in the past. They want to see new life, new excitement, better results. If it hadn't been for the Chittenden County businessmen that we are very thankful for to dump in their own dollars and go out and do recruitment, we wouldn't have had the turnaround. We can put as much credit to the county and the town folk that did really well as far as endorsing their candidates and supporting them organically. But we have to take the lead. We can't wait for others to do with what we should be doing.
It seems like Paul keeps bringing up that he wants you to defend the seats that we currently have at a Senate level, and that he is not looking forward to adding new candidates.
Well, I think that we need to, a failure on my part would be that if we got through 2026 and we didn't have control of the Senate, that would be a huge failure. We can win, we can pick up 3 more seats, and that's what we need to do. But just as importantly, we can't forget about the House. There are so many seats out there that we just didn't run people. And we have right now, we have Democrats who are kind of tired of this crazy train that they're on with the progressives. They're begging us, please run candidates that are sane, that we can support, that we can vote for, and we'll do that. So they're ready as well. They're tired of the direction of where the state's headed. They want off, and it's up to us to provide the right mix of candidates and support so that we can help them.
Yeah, I feel like actually having some money to give would drive having better candidates. Some of the best candidates are going to say, hey, if I don't have the support, then why would I waste my potential doing this, or why would I spend this kind of money into the unknown if the party's not even supporting me, especially financially?
Exactly. And we're starting to see bigger crowds coming to these meetings that we're having, and we're starting to see more people who have really sat back, and, you know, business people or people that are maybe have just retired, and they're like, you know what, okay, I see it. I've been inactive for way too long. I need to jump back in, and I think that if they were to do that, we would be very lucky.
All right, switching gears. You're very well known in the Northeast Kingdom for your radio stations and how you broadcasted Fox News, or you started bringing that into the area, something Vermonters have never had access to before. How will your media experience shape your leadership of the VTGOP and help you connect with Vermonters?
Well, I think it's a lot about not just the media part of it, but just about the person that I am. I run companies. That's what I do. I build teams. I sell stuff. I help people. My wife and I have a very deep connection to all the communities that we're in. We, we've told the food shelves when we bought the radio stations, hey, look, we know that you've gotten hundreds of pounds of foods. Be ready for tons. I have Oh, I don't even, well, I have a theater group that we pay for every bit of their advertising, and it's very expensive. And we do it because of this. We do it because we realize that not every kid can kick a soccer ball. Not every kid can swing a bat. And there's this child out there that is shy but can sing or can act and can do all of that stuff. And we want to make sure that that child gets a chance to be their best self that they can be. And that's really as plain as can get. I had my accountant called me a while ago, and he said, Russ, we got a little bit of a problem. I said, oh boy, well, I don't like that. And he's like, no, it's not a terrible problem. And I said, well, what's the problem? He said, well, you know, you're giving away more than what that you should. I say that a different way. He said that for what you're giving away, you don't get any more of a tax break. And I said, well, am I doing anything wrong? No. And he said, well, then okay, let's keep on doing with what we're doing. So it's important about as far as the media experience and my experience and my wife's experience and about to be who we are. You know, we do care about Vermont. We care about Vermont deeply. I have people all over the world that are friends of mine. I'm very fortunate to that. And they say, Russ, you know, if you can make it in Northern Vermont, you can make it anywhere. And I was like, yeah, I know that. I said, but can I bring the people? Can I bring the people with me? Because that's why I'm still here. I do believe in Vermont. I do believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And I think that as of right now, one of the questions you asked earlier, why do I want to be involved as much as I want to be? I think the time is now.
So back to money. You've pledged, if you're elected as chairman, that you will not take a salary.
I will not take a salary. Paul Dame, I think, is taking $62,000 or $65,000. That's 9 House candidates.
Yeah.
That's 9 House candidates just to get us to 0. So we have 9 House candidates that we don't have to worry about. We got those paid for. Now let's go find the other 40 that we need to run. And then we'll talk about the Senate part of it. You know, it's funny. Everybody thinks because you're a business owner that you just make all this type of money. My paycheck consists of every once in a while, my wife puts $300 on top of my bureau next to my wallet. I don't take a paycheck. I have a credit card that puts diesel in my truck. And so, no, I'm fortunate enough, you know, that I'm not a millionaire by any way, shape, or form, but we're very good with money, and we don't have a lot of debt. And I don't need that. I'm in it to do the right thing. I don't need a paycheck for that. I'm fired up. I want to win. I want to win for Vermont. I think the time is right, and I don't need money to do that. That doesn't fire me up.
What do you think the problem is right now, or has been in the last few years, for fundraising? Why is there such a lack of money?
I think there's been a lack of fundraising, for one. I mean, I want to bring, I talked in the forum today about it, but I want to put a committee together of donors in themselves. Let's put donors dialing for dollars, because they know who to call, and they know all the objections that they're going to get. So these donors that are willing to help us out, because they are willing to help us out, let's put them together. But I think a lot of it is that they just haven't liked the direction. They just didn't really think the direction was right of where the VT-GOP was headed. And nobody wants to support a loser. They want to support winners. And so I think that we're going to breathe enough energy into this that they're at least going to be willing to give us a chance, and we need to show them quickly that their money wasn't wasted, and I think we can do that.
I think that it's very important to set the tone of winning.
Yes.
It's very fun when you're winning, to even at just I'm putting my ballot in a ballot box. I want to win that election, and I feel like a lot of our Republican voters get the what's the pointism, and then they don't vote. They go, well, we've lost for all these years, or in this county is always blue, so what's the point? I'm tired from work, I'm not going to vote. And so setting the tone up like we're going to win definitely makes people want to get involved.
I think the Democrats have done one fantastic thing, and that is demoralize the Republican voter. Yeah. I think that they've done a really nice job with that. We need to do a better job and counteract that. We need to find ways to get those people to the polls and get them excited. It's my take that if somebody runs for dog catcher, you ought to go vote. And we want to get back to that.
So a huge issue in Vermont that comes up in all kinds of debates is the public safety concerns that we have in crisis in some of our cities, Burlington, Brattleboro, Rutland. We've got opioid addictions. We've got a cocaine epidemic. We're number 2 in the entire country for cocaine usage rate, which is out of control for crack cocaine. How would you lead VT-GOP to
handle public safety issues, and what direction as far as support would you send?
Well, I like I like what the governor's done first. I want to give the shout out to the governor. I think that bringing that other court into Chittenden County has been a very great idea. And I also like the fact that I saw today that they're actually going to bring state police foot patrols back into the city. I wish that the city in itself would do that. But, you know, I do like that the governor called their bluff, said that he wasn't willing to do anything about it. And I do think about, you know, a lot of people say, well, you know, they should just go, and they're the ones that created that problem, and they should just kind of handle it themselves. But I think the other way. I think about the people that actually didn't, you know, that are there, that are being affected, and they are the poorest of the poor, and these problems are affecting them, and they're getting punished for it. So I'm very thankful for what the governor has done. I also think that we can do a better job as far as I think that we can do a better job as supporting candidates to run against some of these prosecutors. I know that there's a lot of people who are asking us to put up a good candidate against Sarah George. I think we can do that. I think that we have to really look seriously at running those candidates in a strong way. We have to do a better job legislatively. We have repealed or stopped the Democrats from being able to push the age up to 26 years old. That would put those people in a child court. That is ridiculous. They were trying to push it up to 21 or 22. We've got it stuck at 20 right now. We need to repeal that. We need to get back to 18 years old. So we have to actually get back to making sure that we have a chance to do a constitutional amendment to make sure that there's no such thing as cashless bail. We've seen over and over again where people have to put cash up. It does change their behavior. So you know, a lot of it is just getting through the storytelling of what the progressives say taking care of crime looks like. We know they're wrong. We feel that we're right. We just have to keep working in the way that we're doing.
Another huge issue we have in Vermont is homelessness. And with that, the Democrats driving this homelessness spending and draining our budgets, along with programs like the hotel voucher program, which is a flashpoint in cities like Brattleboro, where this has been devastating for us. How would you take the VTGOP to approach that issue?
Well, we spent $700 million on that hotel motel program. You want to talk about throwing money right straight out the door? Yeah. That's where it is. We have shown over and over, and I know that that even some of the state officials get kind of nervous about it. But these people are coming from elsewhere. Yeah. They really are. The numbers exploded just as soon as Massachusetts and New York and New Hampshire and Maine shut their programs down. As soon as COVID was over, they shut them down, and all those people moved to Vermont. And when you talk to the people off camera about what the problem is, they'll say, well, we just don't ask any questions. And what happens is somebody moves in, we are mandated immediately to find them housing. So we find them housing. They call wherever they came from and say, hey, you wouldn't believe this, and oh my God. And then those people show up, and they don't move in with the folks they just found housing for. We have to find them housing. So I think we really have to look hard about, I think we have to do more of the truth telling about really what's going on. There is no way that Vermont has the homelessness numbers organically the way that the progressives have said that they are. We're doing it because we're not tough enough. We don't ask enough questions. You want to see how expensive something can be, make it free. And we've made housing free for homeless for way too long. This drug epidemic that we're having, all the crises that we're having with that, it's just ridiculous. We have to do a better job. We have to get tougher. And sometimes tough love is the best way to do it.
And so, I mean, it's a huge issue with spending, and it's all tied together politically, but I think that you're right on that. We need to kind of rein in that spending, and a lot of that starts with getting candidates to run who are going to vote appropriately. Like in my district, Windham County, we have senators who vote to increase voucher programs and homelessness spending, which to me feels like it goes directly against the best interests of our community.
Yeah, we have so many poor people in this state already that we do nothing for, and we just add to it, and I don't know what the progressives' love is with drug addiction, but they certainly aren't at all interested in solving it. I mean, they are interested in putting in a place where no drugs are legal nowhere in the world, but bring them here and we're going to allow you to shoot up. Safe injection sites, and that is just craziness. I do a lot. I was just earlier the week. I was at a sober living house that I helped put in Derby, Vermont, and the problem with that is that they have 22 beds. They have 7 filled, and they don't have the funding to fill the other beds. The other beds. And if we were not spending $2 million on the safe injection sites and putting focus on places like that, we would do a lot better job. It's 100%. I've also done just a little bit of personal about me. I like to try to stay away from that a little bit, but I have taken a lot of people kicking and screaming and dropped them off at rehab, and I've been there to pick them up. I've never had anybody, once I picked them up, tell me, I wish you hadn't done that. So, you know, people do want to be better. The trick is you got to get them before they actually die. So we have to, again, I don't know what the progressives' love affair is with drug addiction.
Do you think they are profiting off of it? Like, there's a lot of high-profile Democrats, donors, politicians who also chair boards and different nonprofits and therapies and practices all throughout the state. You think that plays into it?
It could possibly. I'm not involved enough in that to see. But you know what? I think that we could answer that question by just, you know, getting them to answer, why do you love addiction so much?
So, looking at the race going into November 8th, how do you think that you're doing? Do you have any predictions against you and Paul? Or for your vice chair, how do you think that race is going?
Well, I think the vice chair is doing very well. I mean, I support Zach Harvey. He's a great young man. He's very accomplished, you know, for such a young age. And you know, and nothing against the candidates, the other 2 candidates that's running. A 20-year-old, I really don't have time to train as far as in vice chair. And you know, and Greg, you know, he's worked really, really hard. But I just think that you know, I'm going to hitch my wagon to Zach. I think that we're going to kind of define the way that a vice chair will be with Zach is that I'm not looking for him just to sit quietly. I'm looking to do specific things such as fundraising and sharing the vision and recruiting candidates. And Zach's going to be a very, very busy young man, you know, driving the policy decisions that we put forth as executive committee and myself. So I'm really, really anxious to get going with that. I think the race with Paul and I, listen, the race, the election's on November 8th. I'm working through November 9th, and we're taking nothing for granted. We came down here, there was 9 delegates in Rutland. I came in with the idea that I was 9 candidates down. So we're going to push hard. We're going to keep on telling people what we're about. But I'm very encouraged that the people that are calling me, there's a lot of people are calling me and saying, Russ, you know, just stay with it and do it. They showed up today. And they're in the rooms, and we were in Barrie earlier. That room was full of supporters. Today was full of supporters, and you know, I hope that when it's all said and done on November 8th, that we have success. Vermont needs us. We're willing to put the time in for free, but that doesn't mean that they don't get a lot of value. We're anxious to go to work.
Great. I'm excited to see what happens November 8th. Russ Ingalls, Senator Russ Ingalls, running for VT GOP chair position November 8th. Make sure you get out there and vote if you are a delegate. And thank you very much for the interview. You did a great job. Yep.
So there it was, Senator Russ Ingalls. Man, what an interview. Man, I mean, I really liked doing that. We all know I'm a film school grad. And so when I get a chance to hit the field and get out there and get a real good interview like that, I'm always going to jump on it. And that interview was not a letdown. Very interesting to see all the coverage across Vermont. Now WCAX and NBC5 have all jumped on board with talking about the race for the chair of the VT GOP, and not to mention all the other races. But things have certainly heated up with the race this week, with a controversial mailer going out, several different emails, several different endorsements. And so it's been very interesting to see what people's intentions are playing out, what people sort of think politically will help them, and how that plays out. And so basically what's happening on Saturday, all the delegates from each of the counties throughout Vermont will be headed to Burlington to meet up and have our state reorganization meeting. I am the chair of the Windham County Republican Committee. So me and 3 other delegates from Windham County will travel up, and we get to cast our votes for who we think should be chair, vice chair, and a whole bunch of other billets all across the party. And so it's going to be a really good time. Lauren Tiller writes, that interview was fantastic. So glad the technical difficulties didn't stop you from getting it done and broadcasted it for our viewing pleasure. Exactly right. Russ really was upset that he missed his opportunity, especially after last week's interview with Paul Dame was a huge success, and the views were viral levels. And Paul did very well. Now, Paul has had his ups and downs this week during his campaign. He's sent several emails out. He's made decisions of who to endorse. He's said things and done things. And some people are doing certain things, such as a mailer was sent out discussing Paul's salary and his fundraising efforts. And it sort of was very trolly and very unprofessional kind of seeming. It was made very quickly. It wasn't like a nice mailer. It's not like somebody knew how to use Photoshop or anything. But that was sent out, and so we'll all see what happens. Now, if you think about what happened and what was said during Russ's interview specifically, I'm going to go over some of the stuff that in more depth that he was talking about, because my goal for putting this out there for people to view and consume this is sort of the next step along the way. When you watch my Brattleboro News public safety coverage, I show police footage, I show arrests, I show what's out on the streets of Vermont and how it all affects our communities and what's really going on. The stuff that all of our news now, they don't show anything like that. So I've been putting out these massive truth bombs for a long time. And I have my Planet Hank reality show episodes that sort of do that in a more in-depth way with narrative overlays and interviews and examples of, you know, how public safety issues have been breaking down. But the politics is sort of like, okay, so all of these things are negative in our community. We don't like the drugs. We don't like the crime. We don't like the violence. We don't like the revolving door. So what do you do about it? And why are those things the way they are? And it's like, well, because of politics, because of who was running, who wins, and who has authority up at, you know, Montpelier, where these things are being voted on. And, you know, by and large, it's the Democrats who have voted for things like removal of mandatory minimums, which we will get into. But so one of the things that was brought up by Russ was Governor Phil Scott's 14-point safety surge, his safety plan for Burlington. Now in Brattleboro, we're used to this because we had Chief Norma Hardy's downtown action plan that she laid out before the select board last summer, which sort of let us build on our public safety measures, police force, the police substation, the BRAT team. We had several increases in personnel, and all of it was brought on by, the success of rallying up our community to be like, hey, this public safety stuff we have going on, it's not okay. We need more cops. We need to get the drugs out of here. We have no treatment. We have no sober living. All we have is a homeless shelter that's full of a bunch of liberal hippies that are forever doing the wrong thing, including having a murder at Groundworks. So in Brattleboro, we're all traumatized by this, and we're a little bit like gun shy. We're not having it. So obviously they're going through that up in Burlington, and Phil Scott laid out a 14-point, 90-day short-term action plan for Burlington. Crime was up 23% since 2020. 842 incidents from 20 repeaters. Sounds familiar. Open drug markets on Church Street. No new taxes, new cops, just results. So they're going to build up the trooper surge. 2 VSP squads plus DMV liquor enforcers on Church Street, noon to 8 p.m. through December 31st. So they're going to put a bunch of cops. Good approach. 0 new hires, 0 new taxes, pure reallocation. Yeah, okay, I'd like to see this happen. Mulvaney Stanek called it unfunded mandate. Scott called it your mess, our cleanup. So they go wild. And I think it's so funny watching Phil Scott and the governor go after each other. It's so they had a special prosecutor for the repeat offender docket. Zach Waite, 5+ pending cases equals fast track court. Stuff like pretrial GPS and daily check-ins via DOC. The 2024 stats, 1 in 3 downtown thefts by under 50 individuals. Crazy. So much like Brattleboro, they have one population of people that are just repeat offenders, just going wild in the state. And they need to basically figure out how the court's going to set this up to finally catch up with all their cases and figure out what they're going to do with these people. So there's $1.4 million opioid settlement cash on the line with a 90-day pilot. Wow. They got UVM volunteer sweeps every Saturday. 200+ students signed up for street cleanup. Crazy. So they're part of their plan is they're going to get UVM students to go marching around downtown Burlington and picking up homeless encampment trash and dirty needles. Great idea. He goes, it will be crazy by 8:30 p.m. then. Exactly. Once the cops leave. Wow. $72-hour non-hospitalization orders for public psych drug crises. Ordinance tickets now $150. Revenue funds for VSP overtime. Wow. So full rollout by February 1st. Measurable drop in calls for service by Q1. Back Scott, block bail reform 2.0 or lose the Queen City. Pretty much. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with the 14-point action plan from Governor Phil Scott. I don't know about that one. It sounds good now, but it's too good to be true. So I'd start to wonder, is this going to work at all? Are you going to be able to pull this off, Governor? Will Phil Scott's plan work? What do you think? Or will Burlington continue to slide into chaos? Everybody knows that likely drugs will win in this case, as they have done. And we're going to need to really step up the police presence in Burlington and across the state. The liberal narrative of harm reduction, non-carceral approaches to criminals and felons, and removing mandatory minimums, that's never going to work. These policies, they lead to awful everything, including this situation. This is an overdose fatality, a death in City Hall. Fatal overdose at City Hall. Wake-up call for tougher drug enforcement. Like, are you kidding me? Matthew Denlinger, 48, South Burlington. Suspected drug overdose in City Hall bathroom, 180 Market Street, found at 6 a.m. November 4th. Autopsy pending. Drugs invading public spaces amid VT crisis. From back alleys to bathrooms, liberal harm reduction fails families. Time for borders and busts. Straight up. We have to do something about this crazy, no mandatory minimums, no trouble. They have 50 people in Burlington, and we did the exact same exercise in Brattleboro and basically can blame 5 or 6% of our entire response budget on 20 individuals, 20 people wasting all that money out of our response budget. And why? Why are we letting, through our laws, allowing these people to just be out on the streets, keep getting released, keep getting more benefits, free vouchers, free food, all of these things, and turn around and basically don't follow the rules? And even then, we don't hold them to account. And why? And how did it come about over this long time? So Denlinger, local, not transient, underscores how addiction hits working Vermonters. It's not just people downtown. No suspicious activity, but echoes Burlington's 842 disorder incidents. Drugs don't respect safe spaces. So basically, drugs are hitting all aspects of our lives. Somebody down at City Hall, laid down and overdosed and died on a bench. You can see a picture of this guy like laying there dead right in the middle of the lobby. 2024, 183 opioid OD deaths. 22% drop from 2023 with a peak of 235, but still a 500% increase since 2014. So this is a major problem for us. We have to be realistic about this. Like, we absolutely need to be realistic about this. 60 plus deaths this year so far from fentanyl and cocaine. So there is a shift alert. Smoking ODs has tripled since 2019. Injecting down. So a lot of these people are overdosing when they're smoking fentanyl. Mixing it with crack cocaine, smoking fentanyl, getting high that way, we are having a major increase. So major policies are failing. This is ridiculous. The OPC, the Overdose Prevention Center, is greenlit for 2025. It's already in the news. They have major discussions coming up. Bennington's having a meltdown because they keep mentioning Bennington as a place that they should have an expansion overdose prevention site for the south of Vermont. And so Brattleboro voted this past March that we needed to have another town vote before we approved to have an OPC put in our town. And I'm changing the name back to what it's supposed to be. It's not an overdose prevention center. That is a name that changes the intention of the site to try to cover it up for a political gain. So when somebody doesn't know what it is, they just go to overdose prevention center. Yeah, we need one of those. No, we don't. What it is a safe injection site, or a legal injection site would be more accurate. It's a place where they can bring drugs in and they can legally be there with the drugs and shoot them up and like pass out, and people will watch them pass out. And if they overdose, then they will Narcan them and bring them back. It's like a drug den, like an opium den. 70% of the 2024 deaths in Vermont involve cocaine. Xylazine is up to 42%. Border fentanyl floods Vermont unchecked. It's ridiculous. There's a help link up, 802-565-LINK. We need to demand, so as a state VOP, one of the things that we could do is demand federal wall funding, cut Southern supplies down. Like border issues for Vermonters. This is a major issue for us. We are devastated by fentanyl coming across that border. Cartels are working overtime in weak states that cannot fight back against a big, strong cartel. Public spaces in Vermont should have zero tolerance. Fines for use in government buildings, redirect settlement money to interdiction. So the autopsy results are expected soon for the guy who died in City Hall. Pretty weird story. It just sort of like shows how bad it's getting here. A guy at City Hall overdoses and dies. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. So let's take a look at these overdose sites in this one in Vermont. And so now here is a highly ignorant and ridiculous addition. It's a stimulant shift. Vermont's new drug war needs enforcement, not smoking rooms. So Vermont Department of Health and Burlington's Overdose Prevention Center team are involved, and they're talking about smoking-related overdoses have tripled from 2019 to 23, while stats from this first OPC now plans a 2025 pilot expansion to include supervised stimulant smoking booths. Why? Cocaine mixed with fentanyl and xylazine now drives 70% of overdose deaths statewide. So what they're saying basically is that when people are going to try to smoke their crack, it's laced with fentanyl and xylazine. And then they're overdosing. They may not be used to using those drugs, or even if they are, they might want to smoke crack more and smoke a bunch of it faster and not realize how much fentanyl or xylazine is in that at that time, and then you're just smoking too much drugs too fast. So 70% of overdose deaths statewide, and Narcan is completely ineffective against non-opioid stimulants. So like meth, crack, like that Narcan does nothing. Trading dirty needles in for taxpayer-funded crack pipes is nothing more than liberal harm reduction, rebranded as total surrender to the cartels. Ridiculous. We do not need a facility where people can legally go and smoke crack and meth and have that's ridiculous. Smoking overdoses jumped from 10% of Vermont's total in 2019 to full 30% in 2023, according to the latest Vermont Health Access Surveillance Report. So xylazine, in 2024, lab tests showed xylazine present in 42% of seized drug samples, a flesh-rotting veterinary sedative with no reversal agent available to first responders. So when you're overdosing on xylazine, you can't Narcan someone up from that. And 42% of bags that are seized by officers, the fentanyl that people are shooting up had xylazine in it. So that means almost 50% of the time, the Narcan is ineffective. Chittenden County emergency departments have logged a 38% year-to-date increase in stimulant-related visits through October 2025. Burlington's OPC set to open Q1 2026 will add 6 dedicated smoking booths funded by $2.3 million mix of federal ARPA dollars and state opioid settlement cash. This is Burlington's worst nightmare. Watch. This is going to be a meltdown. And I'm doing this on purpose right after Phil Scott's 14-point action plan. What's the point? So now we got to pay for a whole bunch of cops to go down there while they open up legal drug smoking facilities? What do they think is going to happen? They think the people are going to stop using drugs? No, it's going to be more. So the more cops for the more drug usage that's going to happen at the new party spot that we're going to be paying for with $2.3 million mix of federal and state funds. Staff are explicitly barred from intervening if a user overdoses on stimulants inside the booth and can only dial 911 while the clock ticks. So you hearing that? So if they overdose on crack or meth, the staff can't overdose protection them, so the money can't be used for that. You're still going to have to pay with your first responder response to have first responders come and get them because they can't Narcan them. So if you overdose on that, they still need. So what's the point of having a place that we have to pay for that has people can do these drugs there? What's the point? Just to have somebody to call the cops when they overdose? Sounds like a pretty expensive way to go about doing this with no money, no benefit towards treatment or rehabilitation or retribution to the community. None of that. This is just a temporary place to get high at. That's $383,000 per booth to smoke crack in, versus $50,000 to equip and train one Vermont State Police drug detection K9 unit. I would rather take the 383 and buy a whole new squad of K9 dogs, and let's get this crap out of our communities. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer to me. I don't know who's running the money down there, but no, we don't need a bunch of OPCs in our neighborhoods. So all of that, and what they've done is they've removed our mandatory minimums, and it was done through a series of different things over a long period of time. A lot of it stemming from 1989. Mandatory minimums in Vermont. Who's to blame? So I was on an interview with VTGOP Vice Chair candidate Zach Harvey, and we were discussing how the Dems removed mandatory minimums. And so I figured maybe we'll dive into that a little bit. So let's take a peek at 1989. Vermont passes Act 67 with 3-year mandatory minimums for any cocaine, heroin sale, 5 years minimum if near school or to a minor or with a gun, 10-year minimum for repeat dealers, simple possession, never had true minimums. Simple possession didn't. Max 1-year misdemeanor, it was the judge's call. 2013, Act 76 kills all drug sale minimums, gives it to the judge's discretion. Today, there's no minimums for possession of any drug, 15-year minimum only if trafficking causes a death for drugs. So in 1989, Vermont finally got tough. We finally had drug laws with mandatory minimums. And the Dems picketed and cried about it and said that it targets people of color. And there's an issue with this or an issue with that. And over time, they figured out how to get the 2013 Soft on Crime Act 76. Results: prison population dropped 25%. Great. But fentanyl deaths exploded. Crazy when you think about it with just that specific issue with clarity. So, removing all the mandatory minimums and under the 1989 Title 18 that's in now, possession minimum. So if you just had possession of drugs, mind you, the law in 1989 was largely written for marijuana, which was the main drug that was being carried at the time. Fast forward to now, we're having a problem with crack cocaine and fentanyl. So the law needs to be updated to reflect the day and age of what we're seeing on the streets. Marijuana is legal here, so this law that's in place, it's being enforced to basically, enforce marijuana regulation. It's outdated. It needs to be changed. So removing the mandatory minimums that we had, let these people who were in prison out. Here's the fix. Bring back 3-year sale minimums, especially for crack and fentanyl. The message that we have heard from talking to people, like when I go out and I talk to everybody, I'm a big mouth. I talk to everybody about what they're seeing, what they're bitching about in the town, what they like and what they don't like with Brattleboro, with the Brattleboro news, with my coverage. What they say time and time again is basically treatment for users, hammers for dealers. Dealers need to be locked up. We had if we added a 3-year mandatory minimum for sale of fentanyl, crack cocaine, methamphetamine, the real bad drugs, pills, xylazine, which we were just talking about, add the 3-year minimum for sales with increases that go up if you're a repeat sales offender, which we've seen several people become repeat offenders for sales and felony levels of these hard drugs. We need to add mandatory minimums back for that. This isn't a race issue in Vermont. That argument makes no sense. Mandatory minimums, because if it's left up to the discretion of the judge, there's all kinds of reasons we've just seen where people never get held to account and they get let out time and time again for whatever reason. And if we had the mandatory minimums, okay, we'd have more people, possibly the 25%, more of a population in jail. But I think that would be the tweak that people are looking for in our towns with this. Definitely not what the Dems are now trying to float, which is to reduce the drug laws even more from a possession of a Title 18 misdemeanor for possession of a user amount, which usually results in the issuance of a citation and you go to court at a later date. They want to change that to a civil infraction that can be no more than $50 fine. And, if you're unhoused and all that, it's just like waived. So basically no charge for having fentanyl and crack cocaine. and make all these facilities legal to use these drugs in and make you pay for it. And you can smoke crack and meth in there. And if you overdose on that, then the town needs to pay for the first responders to show up, because there's no point in an overdose prevention site or a safe injection site to smoke crack in, because they can't save you anyway. They can't do anything if you overdose on cocaine or meth. What are they going to do? They got to call the paramedics in, and we pay for that. And if you're not breathing, you go in the ambulance. And now it's a whole, we have several articles in the Brattleboro News on planethank.com talking about the costs of overdoses. The fire chief, the assistant fire chief Keir here in Brattleboro at the Brattleboro Fire Department told me that basically it starts at $1,000 per overdose. So they go, and the minimum it's going to cost about $1,000 to send an ambulance with 2 guys out, and they do a callback where they have to have other guys called up and say, hey, look, we got a call. Can you guys be ready? And they come in, and it's like a whole system. It's a complicated system to run a fire department. And the costs go from there way up. They go to $10,000 next. Like if you're not breathing, you got to get taken to the hospital. And then if your organs are hurt or you're not breathing, and it's like you can go $25,000 that we have to pay and hope that we get reimbursed from Medicaid or somewhere in our communities. It's ridiculous. Whole thing's ridiculous. Let's read some comments. If you have any comments, she said, just waiting for my brother's name to be added to that list of statistics. It's sad that we enable this crap as a society. And that's very sad. I wish you the best with your brother. Nobody wants to see anybody in our communities doing badly, being damaged by drugs. And that's one of the main arguments when I was campaigning against these safe injection sites, overdose prevention centers during our townwide election this past winter, was nobody wants people to be hurt, and using drugs at these places just drives up the amount of addiction and the reliance on drugs. They draw drug dealers into the area. They draw crime. Now, there's a major organization in New York called the Harlem Coalition, and they fight back against these overdose prevention centers, safe injection sites, and documented what happened when they put the New York On Point facility in Harlem in their community, and they watched it turn into a wipeout for drug dealers sitting right out front. There's been shootings there, and junkies just took over the whole block. And now they basically all just hang out right out front of the overdose prevention center, the safe injection site. They hang out there. They can buy their drugs out there. They are homeless out there. They sleep there. They do everything there. And crime has skyrocketed, and overdose deaths in the areas. Because what happens is they go into these places and use the drugs in the facility, and then they leave. And then they go out on the streets to do whatever they want, and the drugs keep kicking in. The other thing is that they might use more drugs once they leave. You know? Obviously. And then they're completely wasted and completely reliant on drugs and spend more. It's a ridiculous waste of our money that doesn't help with treatment of drugs at all. Will the supervised overdose center double as a distribution location as well, or are they voting on that too? And that's I've always talked about that just wait until they set these places up and they create their own studies with their own doctors. And the next thing they're saying is that they should be able to sell the drugs to the people who go to the prevention centers, because then they can control what is in the drugs. It'll be much, much less dangerous. It's the exact next move that's going to happen. These places are going to try to get it so that they can distribute fentanyl to people. That's exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to blow up in everybody's face, and we all know it. So, the current state of mandatory minimums in Vermont does not have comprehensive sentencing guidelines like some states. Penalties are set on a crime-by-crime basis under Title 13 of the Vermont Statutes Annotated, VSA. Mandatory minimums exist for certain serious offenses such as sex crimes, 3 years for sexual assault, lewd conduct with a child, with limited safety valves, drug trafficking, 18 months for fentanyl distribution under 4231, violent felonies and habitual offender enhancements, up to life for fourth felony under 7030. Courts set a maximum term up to the statutory max and may set a minimum term not less than the statutory minimum. But judges have discretion unless a statute mandates a floor. Reforms have focused on elimination of low-level nonviolent crimes retroactively and alternatives like probation or community sentences, like harm reduction BS, and key legislation removing limited mandatory minimums. Vermont's reforms emphasize equity and reducing prison populations. I understand the reducing prison populations, but this conversation of equity, this is not a reflection of what we see here in Vermont. The population is very one-sided here in Vermont. So 2013, S-115. It was a landmark criminal justice reform bill from the 2013 session, reallocating savings from reduced incarceration to community programs. It eliminated mandatory minimums for certain low-level drug possession and theft offenses, expanded on deferred sentences, and allowed supervised community sentences for nonviolent felonies up to the full term served in the community. Yeah, removed mandatory jail for simple possession of small amounts of drugs. Courts gained more flexibility to impose zero minimum sentences for and this is it. There's the revolving door. So when I'm harping on this, you are not a big fan of politics. Everybody needs to be a fan and is usually very interested in public safety issues, what's on the news if a big crime is going down. And here it is. Here is why in Vermont you're looking at what's the deal? S-115, 2013. They removed the mandatory minimums for simple possession. They removed it, and the fix here is to add the 3-year mandatory floor. So if you get caught with felony levels and are convicted of sales, that you get 3-year minimum. We have to change this, and the way to change this is politics, voting on the correct politicians. It has to happen. And that's my little spiel and why I've been so interested in politics lately. He goes, nah, the dealers just hit you up on the way in. She said insanity. Absolutely. Let users choose between rehab or jail. Hell, back in my dad's day, you got into a certain amount of trouble with the law, especially if drugs are involved. You had a choice between the military and jail. So I'm not saying we need to start cracking down, but oh, wait, that's actually exactly what I'm saying. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I've got a special segment I've got a special thing that I'm going to add in here. Here it is. So, sorry. All right. So this next segment, I am adding this in. Here it is. And I'm going to say, rest in peace, Dick Cheney. Monday, November 3rd, at the age of 84, Dick Cheney passed away. Seen as the most powerful and controversial vice president in U.S. history, Dick Cheney reshaped the office with major impact and divisiveness. Dick Cheney redefined the role of vice president by becoming the most powerful and influential vice president in modern American history, wielding unprecedented authority, especially in national security and foreign policy during George W. Bush's administration. His experience as former Secretary of Defense and close trust with President Bush allowed him to act as a key architect of critical decisions, including the war on terror and the Iraq War. Cheney's vice presidency was marked by expanded informal powers, where he operated with less conventional restraints typical of previous vice presidents. This shift concentrated more systemic power in the executive branch, with Cheney playing a central role in shaping the executing policies post 9/11, a period that saw the vice president become a central figure in government decision-making. So rest in peace, Dick Cheney. And so Dick Cheney was one of the most polarizing figures in American politics. He was referred to as the real president during his tenure because of his direct influence, especially on war strategy and anti-terror policies, solidifying his reputation as the most powerful vice president in U.S. history. And rest in peace. And moving along, my very next thing is this segment here. We all know the Brattleboro News Recap Show brings us the most wonderful news footage from my community, and it highlights the needs that we have for public safety. So what we're going to do is we play the video, and I allow you all to watch with me.
Breaking news.
I will read them
I'm
out.
Hank with Brattleboro News and PlanetHank.com, bringing you the latest from our community. Brattleboro police received a report of a man disrupting traffic and behaving erratically in the downtown area. A member of the Brattleboro Resource Assistant Team, or BRAT, was first on the scene, providing real-time updates via radio to officers en route. The man fled the downtown street for a block before officers caught up with him using their vehicles.
Oscar, you need to stop. I don't know who you are, who you're looking for. Please. Why? Why? Stop and we can talk to you about it. Why are you running from this?
I'm not. Why are you holding me? Why?
We're here to investigate something.
What crime? Please stop bending my arms. What crime? What crime? What crime? Disorderly conduct? And what is the conduct that was disorderly? What is the conduct that was disorderly? Please, officer.
Our agents got a report that you were being disruptive over at Snowblock.
Is that a crime?
Yes, that would be disorderly conduct.
Great. I'd like to remain silent and talk to a lawyer.
Take a seat. On the plate.
No. It's dirty. I'm just out doing a performance piece, trying to help people stay alive. I'm not going to answer any questions without an attorney, and I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent.
Okay, you can do that. Do you have ID on you there?
I don't consent to any searches.
Okay. But do you have ID on you?
I would like to remain silent without a lawyer present.
So it's him? All right. Are you refusing to identify yourself? Okay. Log time, DC, and go back to the car.
That's my property.
It's coming with us.
Please just put it in my hand.
You're under arrest.
For what crime?
Disorderly conduct and refusing to identify yourself.
I would like to remain silent.
That is your right.
I would like to talk to a lawyer.
We'll be given that right before any questions.
Like a full Miranda warning.
We're not asking you any questions, so you don't need that. You don't walk and don't walk.
Where am I being transported to? Front of the car or the police department? Brattleboro Police Department, great. For disorderly conduct.
Yes, and laws.
I don't consent to any searches. You've been subject to arrest.
That doesn't matter. Well,
all of these items on top are mine. They need to be bagged before I lose eyesight of them. Before I lose eyesight of them. All of them, including that cigarette butt. Including the flashlight in your hand. Is there anything else on me? You all have your body cams running?
Yep. Yes, sir.
You confirmed that?
Yep.
Excellent. I was out here because the intersection right there in the middle of downtown, when you press the signal to try to cross, you can't get across. It's not in sync with the red and green light. I told the safety officer this, right? This was while I was doing this performance piece, right? I was never asked to leave a premises or anything. Never trespassed from a premises. I went in and had one drink and played some pool and then continued my performance piece. You have my red wallet in there. I need to see. I don't see it. Just pull it out and show. Just pull it out and show me. I'd like to remain silent and I'd like to talk to a lawyer. Please don't question me without a lawyer present.
We won't question you, don't worry.
Visibly agitated, he claimed his actions were part of a performative art display. He was arrested for disorderly conduct and impeding an officer. I was able to get a comment from Sergeant Hamilton of the Brattleboro Police Department.
On October 21, 2025, at approximately 1930 hours, Brattleboro Police Department officers received a report from a Brat officer who was on patrol downtown of a man blocking traffic on Main Street. Upon arrival, the man attempted to flee, but was caught and detained. Subsequent investigation led to the man's arrest for disorderly conduct and impeding public officers. Bail was set, and the man was held in lieu of bail.
Just because you are arrested does not mean that you're guilty of a crime, and the investigation is ongoing. For the latest, follow me on social media and visit our website. I'm Hank with Brattleboro News and PlanetHank.com. So there we have it, Narcan Man. Narcan Man. Big shout out to all my sponsors, Kings Electric,
Mods,
class. Who would like to do problem 3 on the board?
MOB, and
don't be me.
Kresge.
Please don't be me.
Thank you very much, everybody, for watching the Brattleboro News Recap Show. Planet Hank, thanks for doing the interview. Russ, Ingalls, good luck to all the candidates running. And the last thing that I want to talk to everybody about is Windham County Republican Committee. Our meeting is in November, is November 18th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the church on Burr Street. And this is a working meeting. This is a working meeting. All hands on deck. We have committee stuff to go over. We're picking people for our committees, for finance committees, fundraising committees, our communications committees. We're going to talk about some of the strategies we have. We're planning a party that we're planning for Christmas for the Republican Committee for all of the county, and what we're going to do moving forward. What we're going to do is pull our sleeves up and get right to work. We're not going to get caught in the weeds talking about reorganization or anything. We are going to hit the road running, and we're going to get right in on recruitment, getting new people involved in the committees, and setting up fundraisers. Let's get the show on the road. So everybody, I need you there next month or this month, November 18th, Tuesday, right here in Brattleboro, the Windham County Republican Committee. I thank everybody who always watches my show and supports me and shares this up. Maybe you could show this to a few people. The Planet Hank live show, Thursday night, 8 p.m. Thanks for watching.
Planet Hank Live. The absolute finest entertainment on the internet. Join us in fighting back against evil.
It's hotter than a blacktop in July, sweating like a sinner in a church, and I just wanna get out with my crew tonight and shoot at the lights. Got a couple 40s full of hops and fun, looking for a